when you are as a speaker, people say you have the gift of the gab, that you can talk. Everybody can talk. But you need to now fine-tune that if you want to move it from just a skill to the world-class level so that people can exchange money for it. The moment you want people to exchange money for a skill, you need to level up. People play soccer in the streets. People don't exchange money for those people. But the moment you want to level this thing up, that means you want to join a team. That means your skill development level must go to the next level. So I began to read books about sales obsessively, and I still do.
Hey, it's Dr. Daniel Moses here. Just finished recording another exciting and so much powerful episode of the Wealth and Business Podcast. Now, guys, I want to really beg and ask you for a favor. Over the last couple of years, we've started with the Wealth and Business Podcast. We want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want you to follow us across all our social media platforms so we can continue to bring you guests that will blow up your mind, guests that will share their journey from the ordinary to the extraordinary, which is exactly what the Wealth and Business Podcast is about. Without further ado, I want to welcome you once again to the Wealth and Business Podcast, where on this particular episode, I've just interviewed Paul Fo, who is a Nigerian sales expert. He shares his amazing story, how he once upon a time was a recharge card hustler in Nigeria, selling recharge cards in the streets, and today he has now become an international sales coach, a sales expert who has helped so many other entrepreneurs generate wealth and successes. And one of his clients he spoke about during this episode of this podcast is currently now doing over 10 billion naira in Nigeria. So without further ado, enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Dr. Daniel Moses here. Welcome to the Wealth and Business Podcast. On this podcast, as you guys know, we bring extraordinary people to you, people who transition from ordinary to extraordinary, sharing their successes, sharing their challenges, and how they became successful in their journey as an entrepreneur, as a property investor, as a business owner. As you know, the journey to success is never really easy. On this episode, I am joined by my brother, my friend, Mr. Paul Fo, who is a member of the FOB Council. He is an author. He is an international sales expert. And this guy has done so fantastically well within the Nigerian, society, the Nigerian country, the whole of Nigeria, to be honest, guys. And this guy has been able to train a lot of property people to learn how to sell, to learn how to sell investment, to learn how to sell already made developments, and also raise, market themselves into raising finances. So without further ado, I want to welcome once more again, Mr. Paul Fo. How are you doing, my brother? How's it going?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Dr. Moses. I'm very excited.
Great. So before we get into it, I was doing my research on you earlier. You've got a book called The Coaching Diagnosis, and you wrote a book as well called How to Be Successful in Real Estate and Business. And you've got so many accolades to your name, Mr. Paul. So I think what I want to really do, for the simplicity of the audience, so that they can know exactly where to come, where to literally pick the conversation from. What was your inspiration into sales? What was your inspiration to what motivated you into becoming a sales coach?
Hunger, man. It's hunger. I don't want to be philosophical about it, because I just believe that sales can solve problems that not having money created.
Okay.
Let me say it again. There are certain problems that not having money can create in a business or in a person's life. And the ability to sell, I'm using the word ability because sales is a skill, can solve those problems. So I entered sales because of its power to transform a business and a person's personal life, knowing that it is a skill and it is learnable. So there's a democracy about it. It's not about whether you were born with it or not. It's like learning how to drive a car. That understanding was why I entered it. That anybody can learn this skill and take themselves as far as they want to go. And all of us are in sales.
Just even saying, just kind of, dwelling on that a little bit. I think sometimes people don't really understand that from the moment that you are actually telling your kids to do things for you, you're actually selling them.
That's right.
And from the moment you spoke to, I'm married, I've been married for 17 years now. So for my wife to go out on that first date was a sale.
Yes.
All right. Obviously, it's not financially transactional.
Yeah.
But this is emotionally transactional here.
Yes.
So, and I always say this, right? It's so, like you said, for me, I always say sales is the brake line, is the oxygen that you need to survive as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I highly can't preach this enough I've got a massive property community. Over the last couple of years, I've been fortunate to have coached at least over 1,000 individuals into wealth creation, especially using property as their vehicle. And I said the ability to sell is everything. All right. But it's just a common unknown psychology, how people actually transition to actually making aware of them, of that situation, to know actually there are ways you can actually learn the skill and monetize it and scale your business.
Yes.
So I totally agree with you right there. So were you ever really passionate, about this, or you became a sales trainer just for the fact that you wanted to obviously demonstrate to other people that actually is a skill that they need to learn?
Oh, fantastic. So I was doing general public speaking, like what you call a motivational speaker when I left school. I was hawking recharge card on the street. For those of you in the UK and America, listen to this. I was making less than $1 a day, hawking the card to charge your mobile phone. Those of you in Africa, you will understand that because there are those people in Ghana, in South Africa, but in the UK, they won't understand it.
Yeah, true.
So it's like those corner shops in the UK that sell you your Vodafone, your Leica. I was on the street selling that. So I want them to understand that picture. So having understood that I was doing general training and speaking, then I realized that the best way for me to become successful in this is to pick a niche and go deep down on sales. So I transferred that experience from the streets, packaged it, and progressively gotten better with it over and over and over. I didn't start out as a sales coach. I started as a general motivational speaker. And then I realized that there was a gap. Small businesses, big business, nobody was talking about sales. Nobody knew about it. So I poured my whole heart and soul into it. That was my journey into the sales experience. That's how I started teaching sales.
It's quite interesting. I love that story there. Obviously, I was born and bred and raised in Nigeria, and I went to University of Benin. And when mobile phone first came to Nigeria, in 1998, about 1998,
Yes.
1997, around about 1990, that was when the inception of mobile phones started.
Yes.
The likes of the Econet and the likes of Globalcom before it changes. And I remember at the traffic, generically you have boys, saying recharge card, and basically come, in traffic to buy a recharge card, you give them 300. I remember the first time, I was in the traffic light, I gave my 1,000 naira, and the guy didn't give me change. I just ran away with my change. And I was buying 500 naira, and I gave him 1,000 naira. I think so. I can't remember the amount, but I remember not getting change. So when you said from selling, recharge card in the streets, and that is where you got those light bulb moments. That actually you can become a motivational speaker. And then you started to go into sale. Now let's kind of just take a step back here. How would you want to corroborate, motivational speaking and sales? How did you bring them both together?
Okay. All right. So, I mean, when you are as a speaker, people say you have the gift of the gab, that you can talk. Everybody can talk. But you need to now fine tune that if you want to move it from just a skill to the world-class level so that people can exchange money for it. The moment you want people to exchange money for a skill, you need to level up. People play soccer in the streets. People don't exchange money for those people. But the moment you want to level this thing up, that means you want to join a team. That means your skill development level must go to the next level. So I began to read books about sales obsessively, and I still do. You know, I began to read books about sales obsessively. Then here's what I now did. I began to print a physical newsletter in the city of Port Harcourt. Now, in the newsletter, I will, sales now comes in. I will sell myself to small business owners to advertise their products and services in the newsletter. But I distributed the newsletter for free. Did you see that? So it was the advert that was paying for the newsletter. Then I would tell some of my friends to call the business owners and say, wow, I saw your advert in this guy's newsletter. You are doing well. Well done. How much is this product? Just to create a buzz as if, oh, people are buying this stuff. Did you get that?
Yeah.
It was in that distribution that somebody now said the NMPC Medical in Port Harcourt. NMPC is a big conglomerate. It's a hospital chain. It's in Nigeria. It's a Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Is the body of oil and gas.
Yeah.
That their hospital needed somebody to come and give a talk. The guy now said, I had read your newsletter. Can you give that talk? I said, yes, I can go and I give the talk. As I walked into that hospital, I never left that hospital till 8 years later. They kept giving me jobs. That was actually where my life changed.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. I've never told this story anyway, but yes, that's it. That was the beginning. The first corporate job I had. The job was so good, they kept me there. They were giving me jobs every single time for 8 years.
You know, until I actually left Nigeria, I've been out of Nigeria for over 18 years or 19. Yeah. 18. Actually, what am I? It's more. I'll probably just say under 20 years I've been out of Nigeria. I think I'll keep it that way so I don't kind of complicate the timelines. So I've been out of Nigeria for over 20 years. Until before I left Nigeria, I never actually listened to any motivational, tapes. I actually have never in my life gone to any motivational seminar or anything like that. Maybe it was just because of the part I grew up from, or maybe the kind of environment I was in. You saying that you were speaking in Nigeria, doing inspirational speaking.
Yep.
It sounds like a new, it just sounds so new to me, because 20 years ago, my crew, the people I kept as friends, we never knew anything about motivational speaking.
Oh yeah.
So if I'm right, obviously by the look of your face, you can tell that you're in your late 40s or maybe late 30s or early 40s around about. So let's take a step back now. NNPC, the Nigerian Petroleum Corporation, paying you for motivational speaking.
Yeah.
How was that presentation like? How were you able to package them? Apart from the fact that yes, they saw your newsletter, how did it happen?
Okay, so let me walk that. So this is where I always tell people that when you read a lot, it puts you 5 steps ahead of time. I mean, this guy, it was in the streets. There's the name of the street where I was selling my recharge card is a place called Emekuku Street in Port Harcourt. People can verify that. I was hawking recharge card on that street. Emekuku Street in Port Harcourt.
Our British audience are going to struggle with that.
So I used to get old copies of GQ magazine.
What is GQ?
GQ, the fashion magazine for men.
Okay.
So I read up about how to dress up properly. All right. While I'm reading all these motivational books. So when the opportunity came, I wasn't thinking about how to present myself in the corporate world. I was ready for it. I was hungry for it. For a company to leave you in their payroll for 8 years, that means you must be effing good at what you did for that 8 years.
Absolutely.
You must be really, 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 really good. They kept me there for 8 years. In fact, the first house I bought in Nigeria, the money that they paid me from that NMPC, I'm not going to share this anyway. The money that they paid me from that NMPC, the first installment of that payment was in it.
Wow. This is
Yes,
interesting.
so it was this. So I tell people all the time, you don't that it is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Wow. That's
Yes.
a very interesting saying there.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
having said that, now let's not go into basically trying to give some value to our listeners, right?
Good.
So you packaged something that was nothing, and that
Yes.
landed you into, the corporate industry as a motivational speaker.
Yes.
And today you're an international speaker.
Guess what?
And
I didn't even have a company. I didn't even have a company. When they wanted to pay me, they said no, we don't pay individuals, we pay corporates.
wow.
So I opened my company first because I had a job.
Wow, that's amazing.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my, this is it. I really love where this conversation is going, because what I can really hear is literally obstructing, completely destroying limiting belief,
Yeah.
and just going all out, all right, to your
Yes.
vision. So your environment couldn't even stop you.
That's
The
right.
moment you made up your mind to go for success, the
Yeah.
moment you made up your mind to want it to be great. Because often one of the things that's held a lot of people back, I always say this: if you can't be part of the process, create your process. If you can't
I
be
like
part of
that.
the system, create your system. After all, by the way, you see corporate organizations and large organizations there, they have terms and conditions. The terms and conditions, in as much as, some of them may be governed by government policies, they created their terms and conditions on how they interact and transact.
Yeah.
So in order for you to interact and transact with them, you must play by that rule. So
Yeah.
if they say you're going to have to pay me on this day, if you don't pay, then we have a problem.
Yes.
If they say they're going to deliver, and to you, if they don't deliver, they have a problem. So
Yes.
it's governed, correct? So you created yours as soon as you can. In a Nigeria at the time, probably from right, we could be talking about maybe the last 10 years, or maybe the last 20 years or
the
so
last
now,
10
right?
years. The last 10 years. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, in an economy where everybody, basically struggles, and yet till today, history over the last 50 years continue to indicate that the average Nigerian still lives below £1 a day.
Yes.
Till today, which
still
was when we are in 2023 now, right?
Yes.
Till today, the average Nigeria in the suburbs still live less than £1
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah.
So you made that transition.
Yeah.
From a hawker, basically hawking recharge
That's
cards.
right. That's right.
From basically hawking recharge cards.
Yep.
And then you started to speak
In
as
corporate.
as a motivational speaker.
Yep.
Then in the corporate world,
Yeah.
eventually you transition into becoming a sales guy by
Yes.
corroborating without any professional qualification.
None. Yeah.
And then eventually becoming a sales expert now, who has trained thousands of people across Nigerian economy, and as well as now you now reside here in the UK.
Yes, I live in the UK.
And
Moved my family here.
You moved your family here to the UK.
Yeah.
And just a couple of weeks ago, while I was digging deeper in my research, I saw you at an event with about almost 50 people in that room. And again, the same mentality, coming to a foreign country. Now, within a couple of months, you're already doing events where you're now training people here in the UK for sales. Now, so I just wanted to kind of, for the sake of the audiences, so they know, they kind of follow through the story of where we're trying to go with this. So my question to you now, Paul, is that we can both agree that sales is the lifeline of every business.
It is.
Now, why is it so important for CEOs, business founders, entrepreneurs to, first of all, you said you had to learn to dress to impress. You was ready for this.
Yes.
If you want to kind of really go deep on this, why? Anyone who is looking to do business, anyone who is looking to even, my cup of tea is property investment. That's the very quiet for my wealth creation. I really want you to go through the fundamentals on how people should master this one simple skill of how you convinced your wife, your children to do stuff for you, which is called sales.
Yes.
How can people master this fundamental and become great at it?
It's very, very powerful. Thank you very much. People must first of all understand its importance, its import, its significance. I think it was Philip Kotler that says that the sales department is not the whole company, but the whole company better be the sales department. I don't think you heard me. I'm gonna say that again. Philip Kotler, old marketing professor, he said the sales department is not the whole company, but the whole company had better be the sales department. So once we understand that everybody in the company is in sales, let them have that consciousness, that culture. That is important, because even if you're listening and you run a property company, even your customer service person that answers the phone must have a consciousness of sales, even if the person does not sell. So that, yes, it must have that consciousness of sales, the basics of asking questions, of handling simple objections, of moving the sales through the pipeline. So, you know what, I can't close it, but let me move you over to the next salesperson. It's a consciousness. That's one. Two, that consciousness must be repetitiously built and embedded into the soul of the organization. So that means that if you have like an organization, I'm sure they have meetings. If you have a morning meeting, it must be spoken about. How did we close this sale? Where did we go wrong? Where are our leads coming from? You know, we made XYZ amount of money last month. Where did most of the leads come from? It is important that people see that, so that the secretary and the security guard, everybody knows that if we don't sell, we can't pay your salary. If we don't sell, we can't pay the rent for the office. We need to, because if you don't drum that into their head, subconscious, they just believe that you can figure it out. They just believe that you can figure it out. So when they have that consciousness, guess what happens? Even if you're not in the office, somebody calls and say, we want to buy XYZ property from you. A company that doesn't have a sales consciousness, the secretary will say, that property is sold out. She will drop the phone, bye, click. A company that they have a sales consciousness, the lady will say, you know what? This other project is sold out. Would you want to have a look on the other one that we're working on? That is a consciousness. That is what I mean by that level of consciousness. That's how, companies can begin to have that awareness of sales. That is the way I see it. I mean, Grant Cardone, I follow Grant Cardone a lot. Everybody sells in this company. Everybody sells in this company. Everyone sells, yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree with you. A lot of people often ask me, how come you are every single day? We have a small team and myself, and we have to pitch Dr. Daniel Moses to people every day.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
we pitch Dr. Daniel Moses as the face of the Property Wealth brand.
Yes,
to people every day.
That's
whether
right.
you are an investor, whether you are a tenant,
yes,
whether you are a landlord.
Yeah.
Whatever you are, but specifically, especially for those who work with us. So because actively we have people who wants to invest in property, but they don't want to do it themselves. So we're actively working with such people where we help them either build a passive property portfolio, or we help them earn passively in property. And it's so important that you have to sell. What is the history? What is the story? What is the journey? What is the conclusion of things that we've done now, and now the future and even the past? Where is the journey coming from? And obviously evolving that conversation every single day for people to buy into that particular name or buy into that particular product. Because honestly, no one is just gonna come. It's like you are a sales coach. Now, people are not just going to come to your sales training if they haven't heard about you over and over and over and over again.
That's right. That's right.
Same thing with an investor. An investor is not just going to buy into a company if they haven't heard over that company over and over and over again. So take Elon Musk for an example.
Very good.
Because you heard so much about Elon Musk, whether the business prospers or fails, because he's Elon Musk. And the moment he says, I need $1 billion, people are just going to give him because he's Elon Musk.
Yes, yes.
And that came from the fact that he has sold logically,
yeah,
and otherwise, and time after time. And when the entire team because the entire team behind him does more, and continue to do what needs to be done month in, month out, day in, day out, week in, week out, which allows, as an investor, for the sales to basically forge ahead, or for a new sale to come in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I totally agree with what you're saying there. So everyone should, it's not a department, it's everyone.
It's everyone.
Whether it's an accounting department, whether it's, operations department,
yes,
everyone needs to learn, obviously, how to represent that specific product, sell the product correctly, so that no sales falls through, rather more sales come in.
Fantastic, very important. So you do know how to upsell, how to cross-sell at every touch point of their conversation with a customer. I think that is critically important. Yeah.
Great. So my next question to you is then, in terms of sales, right? A lot of people, I've read a lot of books, and one of the things I've come to realize is that sometimes people generically don't like to be sold to, right? Or people are always looking to buy.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, how would you kind of, for the sake of the listeners of this podcast, how would you say that people who are looking to buy but don't want to be sold to, how, can you kind of, what's the word I'm looking for now? How can you, deal with such clienteles?
Fantastic. The internet has given us a perfect backdrop to implement this concept you spoke about, that people like to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So let's use you as a case study, Dr. Daniel. I watch your content, I see your videos, I listen to your podcast, but you have never told me to buy anything. You just talk about the fact that property is one of the channels to wealth. You educate me on it over and over and over again. The day I say I want to buy property, the only name that comes to my mind is Dr. Daniel, because it's psychological. In behavioral economics, they call this availability bias. It says that people don't only buy because of a product, they buy because in the past you have programmed them because of your content over and over and over again. So when the need arose, all right, the only name that came to their mind is Dr. Daniel. So they bought from you. You didn't sell to them. They bought. It was your content or your information that you have been giving to them that made them realize the gaps in their lives, the gaps in their wealth creation. They knew that, okay, the way to go about this is through Dr. Daniel's program or through buying property from Dr. Daniel. So that is the way the world is, that people don't like to buy sometimes. How did you put it again? They like to buy, but they don't want to be sold to. So the best way to do that is to educate them. When you educate them, by law, they will come back and buy from it. But that is if you are consistent with the education. Because somebody may be listening to this now. They say, oh, Dr. Daniel said that people don't like to buy, but they want to be sold. But you're not doing anything to seed your name or the name of your business in the heart of the consumer, so that when it's time to make a purchasing decision, your name comes to mind first. So that is how I look at it. So is that constant education, because an educated customer is easier to buy from you than the one that you did not educate. The one that you educate. Dr. Daniel, there are people that you bought things from online, even ticket things. It wasn't the first time you saw their content that you bought. You have been listening to them. You have been seeing their stuff over and over again. So when they made the offer, when you knew that there was a gap in your life, you just pulled the trigger and you bought.
Honestly, I totally agree with you. But a lot of people struggle with that consistency. A lot of people struggle with, being able to continually market without obviously generating an income. How can people stay consistent? Because producing content is like recording this podcast right now.
Yes.
I don't get paid today for this podcast, but there is an evidence of this podcast being compounded into a future income.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I post content 3 times in a day. So from a video to a flyer or something, including an Instagram live, actively educating people on wealth creation and success and happiness and the rest, and and the list goes on and on. It takes a lot to be consistent, especially in such a challenging market where everyone is trying to push this almost similar message but in different language.
Yeah.
How can people stay consistent, and what can keep that fire for people to stay consistent in order to kind of indirectly sell, so that your listeners becomes an automatic buyer?
Fantastic. I think one of the things to help people stay consistent is I say that consistency is better than intensity. If, for example, you do three pieces of content 3 times a week, somebody's starting out, 3 times a day. Sorry, 3 times a day. Somebody's starting out, I don't advise the person to do 3 times a day. All I want the person to do is once a week. Start with the barest minimum. If you do it consistently, it will compound. Do that content once a week. And there will be days that life will happen to you, your kids or whatever. You even though, let's say you do a 40 minutes piece of content once a week and something happened, you couldn't do 40 minutes. You can still do 15 minutes. Now, here's the reason why. You don't stop the goal, but you can reduce the scope. Now, I don't think you heard me. I'm going to say that again. you reduce the scope because now you have an identity in yourself that I'm the kind of person that stays consistent. I can't do 40 minutes today, but I'm going to do 15 minutes of content. You just reduce the scope. You didn't stop the goal. But you have to stay on it consistent. Let me tell you why you must be consistent. It's science. It's behavioral economics. Money is not the only thing that compounds. Your capacity also compounds. Instagram, Andreessen Horowitz is a venture capital firm in America. They gave Instagram $250,000 to start that business in year 2000. Fast forward, 2012, Facebook buys Instagram for $1 billion. Andreessen Horowitz made $78 million. They allowed the money to compound. If they are taking that money out in year 1, that money would not have compounded. The same thing with our skills. Once you leave your skill and you do this video or you do this piece of content once a day, every single day, your opportunities will compound and your ability to do the video and sell yourself on those videos will also compound. So once you understand the power of compounding, just stay there. That's why they say if you can out consistent the competition, in my own words, you will win. I don't know how to put it, but just stay on it, knowing that it will compound, because the day your opportunities will come, you cannot figure it out. You don't know the day somebody will see that piece of content and call you. You don't know. There's no way you're not in control of that. The only thing that you're in control of is put it out there and let the forces of the universe carry you to the shores of greatness that you seek.
Wow. Mr. Paul, it's been some fire coming out of your mouth right there. So much fire, so much gems. You can really tell, right, that this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to sales. I'm so super excited that, we got you here on this podcast episode. Now, before we start wrapping up, let's talk about your book very quickly. So you wrote the book on how to be successful in real estate. So what was that book specifically talking about?
So basically, it's a sales book. It's selling is selling. I was talking to somebody the other day. The person said, "Oh, but I sell cars. I don't sell real estate. How does your principles apply?" I laughed. I said, if you can sell a car, if you can sell a phone, you can sell a house. The principles are the same. The context is different. The principles are the same, but the context is different. A good salesperson is like a good coach, a good life coach, a good sales coach. A coach, I can coach a lawyer, I can coach an engineer, I can coach anybody, because the framework of coaching is asking powerful questions. Good salespeople ask powerful questions. So the thing is the same process of prospecting, converting the prospect into paying clients, asking powerful questions, follow up. All right. Those are basically the things that are in my book. I mean, my recent book is Irresistible: How to Attract, Retain, and Multiply Paying Customers. All right. So that's what basically sales is selling is about. Their principles. You attract a client, you prospect, you ask powerful questions, you turn those questions into follow-up. You follow up, you have metrics, when to call the clients, when to follow up. Like, for example, I do over 20 sales calls every single day. I've done that today, every single day, because they say that the global average of call to conversion is either 9.6% or 10%. So that means that if you make 100 calls every day, most likely they are qualified. You may close 10 or have an appointment with 10 people. So once you understand that, you don't focus on the outcome, just stay with the system, because systems are more powerful than even outcomes. There's a great poet that says that we don't rise to the level of your ambition, you fall to the level of your training. And that's my favorite quote for 2022, because if your training is a 5/10, and your ambition is a 10/10, you will not rise to the ambition of 10/10. You will fall to the level of your training. So, for example, if you train yourself every day in sales by recording your sales calls and listening to that like a basketballer would do, it's called game time. All right. And you see how you can improve. You're getting better and better at it. If you look at the top 5 objections that you always face in your business, you write those objections down and you get a role play in your office and say, when the client says it's too expensive, what do we say? When the client says, call me back, what do we say? If you practice those things, the more you get better at those practice, when you face a situation, you will not rise to that your ambition, you will fall to that level of training that you have been doing for yourself over and over again. So that is the way, people get better at sales. It's not rocket science, but it takes a lot of discipline to get to that point, and a lot of people are not ready to put in that work.
Wow, amazing! Yeah. I really love that. I really love what you just said there, because the truth be told, right? It's just the power of consistency. That's one of the biggest things I can hear, and also the ability to be able to cross-pollinate. If there's one skill personally I've learned over the last 6 years on this journey that has skyrocketed me from the ordinary to the extraordinary, I think it's been the ability to cross-pollinate information. The reason why I'm quite an unconventional property investor currently in the UK market and gaining so much attraction across the globe right now, when only what we've been doing over the last 3 years is one simple thing: cross-pollination. Taking information from one industry to the other, and bringing it all together to form one simple judgment. And that has allowed me to be the person that I am right now. And I always say this to a lot of my community members, my students, my media followers. I say this: it's so important to cross-pollinate information. Yes, you might be a sales guy in cars. You might be a sales guy, in the banking industry. Yes. You might be a sales guy. In fact, even if you're a promiscuous individual, because there are men that love to have a lot of girlfriends and a lot of wives and a lot of all these different things. It's the same skill, same principle.
Yes.
If you can just, if you can bring all these different things together, it's the same skill.
Same skill.
It's the same skill, right? Skill. It's how you sell a house to someone, the same way you're going to sell a car, right? The only difference here is just the language.
That's it. The language just builds rapport between you and that person. You, dear listeners, you're listening to this. What Dr. Daniel said is the truth. The same thing. The same way you actually train an athlete, you can actually train a salesperson that way. The same principles. For example, there's something in our brains that we call neuroplasticity. It means the ability of our brain to shape itself, to learn, and to adapt. They say that if there's a fresh set of grass in front of you right now, you walk on that grass, you create a path. If you still walk on that same grass, that path becomes a road. That is the same way we learn a skill, that there are neural pathways in our brains. When you do something over and over again, the neurons that travel on that pathway becomes faster. This is why you don't have to be talented to be a great salesperson. You just have to be disciplined to do the fundamental, the basics over and over and over again. As you do it, you just get better. Like what Kobe Bryant said, that, you know, they went for basketball training, and somebody came to me and said, all the things you are doing in this training is what my children do in their basketball class. Kobe Bryant now shrugged his shoulder and said, why do you think I'm the greatest? Because I stick to the fundamentals. The fundamentals are not sexy. You don't like them. I do it. I run every day. I jump every day. I do it over and over again. If you do those over and over again, you will get better at selling. What are the fundamentals of sales? Stick to the plan. I make 40 sales calls every day. Just stick to it. Do it every day. Do it every day. And just say to yourself, how do I get better in the opening, the closing, the middle of the sale? Work on it like a scientist every day. You will become dangerous on the phone. That's it.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. Mr. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure of having you at the Wealth and Business Podcast. Now, guys, I want to very quickly share this. You're going to be speaking on the 27th of February, which is our next Wealth and Business networking event, which is in collaboration with the podcast. So you're going to be speaking at the event, and you're going to be talking about sales. You're going to be probably deep in dive, you know, in a training mood, just kind of breaking down what sales is, you know, so people can actually take this powerful skill, one of the most important skills to have in life. A salesman never go broke
at all.
A salesman never go hungry. A salesman never lacks nothing.
Never.
All right, except you are not just good at it.
Yeah.
If you're a salesman, you can do anything. So one of the biggest skill to learn, and you're going to be talking about this topic, sales, you know, sales to grow from rags to riches, sales to grow from, you know, from nothing to scale. And you're going to be talking about all these different topics around, you know, around sales. Now, what are people going to expect?
They're going to expect a lot of these things, you know, a lot of some of the concepts that we shared today, but I will expand them with a lot of case studies. I mean, I work with a company in Nigeria. This money may not mean a lot. I mean, last year they did 16 billion naira in sales, in revenue, in their property business. Yeah. I work with their sales team. Yes, for over 90 days. That was on their neck. I'm telling you, man. So I'm going to share a lot of those case studies, because if somebody can produce 16 billion with that, they can produce 100 billion. It's the same principles. It's the same principles. Yeah. So we'll go into the science of it, the mindset of it, and the practicality. They're very actionable, usable. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of the listeners. Invite your friends, tell them to register and come for the event on the 27th of February. It's going to be a banger.
I love that. That's the Nigerian language there, the banger. Wow. Yes. So amazing to have you, Paul Fo, Mr. Paul Fo, who is a member of the FOB Council, author of many books. And as you guys can see, I mentioned some of his books, one of them being How to Be Successful in Real Estate. And the other one is basically Buy and Sell Anything.
Yes, right? How to sell anything to anyone.
Great. And then another of your book is the Sales Diagnosis Call, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. So Paul, it's been absolute pleasure having you at the Wealth and Business Podcast. We can't wait to have you as well on the 27th of February, where you're going to be speaking. And I'm really looking forward to this, because one of the things that we want to really do at Property Wealth Education is that through our series of educational materials that we provide out there is to basically let people understand. I've always said this: property for us, it's not just investing in property. It's about building a property business, building a property empire. Now, a lot of people always ask me, how did I transition from an Uber driver to building a 7-figure property portfolio? And I just somehow say, to be honest, I think because I've been in business almost 22 years of my life, although you know, I never really achieved the level of success that I have over the last 6 years. Now, what changed for me? I've always been an entrepreneur 22 years, right? But what changed for me? What changed for me was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I started to invest in myself. I started to pay for coaches. I started to pay for mentors. I started to read books. I started to listen to podcasts. That is what changed for me.
That's right.
before now, I never really understood the importance of mentorship. I was born and bred in Nigeria, for example. The Igbos are most of the Igbo part, this eastern part of Nigeria, is the people that kind of, you can really see them doing this whole mentorship thing. And what is the mentorship thing the Igbos do? They call it serving. So you go and serve a master. When you serve a master, then you get to you end up being free, and they give you money to start yours.
Start your business, yeah.
And it was only recently, about a couple of years ago, when I started to go through this journey of mentorship and coaching, I realized actually, yes, there was mentorship in Nigeria, to be honest, but it was in a different way. It wasn't funkified. It wasn't packaged.
Yes.
But until I actually followed it. But now a lot of people are trying to lead, but leading nowhere. A lot of people are trying to go, but going somewhere, going nowhere. I think it's quite important that we all start to learn to go somewhere. And if you want to lead, you must first be the true example for yourself before you lead other people. I think, so it's so important. It's so important that, for those of you listening, make sure that you come to the Wealth and Business Podcast. And the 27th is in Bromley, London. Okay, Bromley FC Football Club. We start at 6 o'clock and we're going to finish about 10 p.m. There's going to be Paul Ford speaking. There's going to be Mark Atrin speaking. And as well as myself, I'm going to be talking about the property market. I'm going to talk about passive property investments. So make sure you don't miss out. So Paul, is there any word you want to really give to those who are listening to this podcast right now?
Okay. So the word I give to them is, there's an old African proverb that says that until the lion can read and talk, every story will glorify the hunter. So you have a phone, which is a media asset. If you don't tell your story, nobody will tell that story for you. But when you tell your story, you will attract the people, the events, and the circumstances that will help make your dreams come true. So that's my take on for them.
Wow, fantastic. So for those who are listening and they want to kind of check, what are your social media handles or website? How can they find you?
Yeah, I'm very, very active on Instagram. It's at Paulfoh, at PAULFOH. So from there you can get any other thing there, and YouTube as well. So two very places I'm very active: Paulfoh, Instagram, and then on YouTube.
Fantastic. Thank you once more for being on this podcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. And for the listeners, make sure you go and grab your ticket for the Wealth and Business Podcast. Check out our website, www.propertywe.co.uk. So that's www.propertywe.co.uk. Grab your ticket to the next Wealth and Business Networking event, and we're looking forward to seeing you. Take care and have a fantastic, fantastic week ahead. My name is Dr. Daniel Moses, and I'm the host of the Wealth and Business Podcast. See you soon. Take care.